snap.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Youth Ministry Booster Podcast, hanging out at SBC Live here in the exhibit hall. It's another day, talking with friends, hanging out with some of our favorite people, and so we continue with Seminary Summer. Dr. Kellen, thank you for joining us today, all the way from across the hall.
Absolutely. It's good to be here. It's good to walk over. No traffic.
So good. Yeah, no traffic. That's right. By way of Southeastern, thank you so much. We're excited to have you today. We've had some really great friends all summer. We've been recording here and there. We're excited to have a conversation that I think is both an important topic and in many ways, sometimes a taboo topic. Maybe not that we can't talk about it, but we're not sure how to talk about it. And I'm excited for your guidance and your clarity as we talk about what it looks like to counsel teens well and faithfully. But before we get into that, I wanted folks to get to know you and your chickens. So tell us a little more about how our professor author friend is teaching kids to raise chickens as punishment. Go on. Maybe we need to institute this more in our youth groups for middle schoolers. Your kids have to feed the chickens when they get bored?
You know, some parents, if their children say, I'm bored, they hand them a chore to do, right?
Yes.
Go do the dishes, go fold your laundry.
Yeah.
We live on a farm. We have close to 300 chickens. Actually, all the rest of our pigs got taken to the butcher this morning, so yay bacon. And we have a handful of
bacon
cows.
For the summer, yes.
Exactly. So we tell our kids, if you say you're bored, you get to go get eggs, or you get to feed chickens, or you get to go, do something outside, check on the pig's water, that sort of thing. They have learned very quickly not to say that 5-letter word in our house.
Oh my gosh! So farm girl now, but not always city girl first, right? Like this is like new adventure for y'all.
Very new adventure.
Okay.
I like to say this was not on my life's bingo card.
Okay.
But because I love my husband and this is his dream.
Okay.
He just wants to be outside on a tractor.
That's just it.
It just is. It's peaceful for him.
John Deere Kellen, absolutely.
Kubota, all the way.
Okay. Starting fights. All right.
I'm sure we'll get to another one of those about basketball teams.
Kubota Kellen. That's a nice. That sounds like an action hero, right? It's good.
It does. On a farm, that's about a 3-year venture. The hope long term is to train seminary students who want to be missionaries and to bring them out to the farm, teach them agricultural skills, and then send them to closed countries with a platform. So that's the long term goal of that farm.
Well, it makes me smile a little bit. So some of our dearest friends are missionaries in Southeast Asia, and they are in the water filtration and farming business.
I know some of those.
But they were trained as nurse and physical therapists. And so hearing friends that were engineers turned farmers is not far off. And I would even say farming, it probably keeps you pretty faithful and biblical. It feels like all the best illustrations in the Bible are from the farm.
There's so much connected to creation and the way that God created the world to be and how it works best. And just like we see humans flourishing when we live the way God created us to live, creation does too. Animals do too. And so there's so much that we can even missionally tie back to the way God created animals to exist alongside one another, alongside us. So you're about to get me nerding out on farm stuff and theology, but that's my husband's happy place.
Oh, I love it. But I do think that language of flourishing is one of the things that we want to bring to the conversation today, because I think that's a helpful lens for how we talk about teenagers today. Because I feel like if you were to ask most of us about most of our students, our teenagers, our kids, ones that feel like they belong to the time that we have them, it doesn't feel like a lot of them are flourishing in the ways in which we hoped. And in many ways, it doesn't feel like that's their fault. And so I wanted to start by kind of asking this kind of broad question of like, why does it feel like teenagers or students today are all overwhelmed? Like that's kind of the best word that I can come up with, is that everything feels overwhelming, or that they're overwhelmed. And how do we talk about that in healthy ways?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't know that there's a simple answer, but here's where I'll start. If you were to poll 100 people and say, how many of you want to go back to middle school? It'd be crickets, right? So
nobody's signing up for it.
Exactly. So there's this kind of normative across generations.
Nobody wants to puberty again.
Exactly. So there's this developmental piece that happens across the board.
Yeah.
And that's what we experience, right? I wouldn't want to go back to middle school or show some photos.
7th grade was the hardest year of my life.
Yes. Poor fashion choices.
Yes.
But now our teenagers are inundated with voice after voice, opinion after opinion, standard after standard. And so whereas, we grew up and it was like, who's the model in the magazine? Now it's who's on their scroll that they're seeing for 2 hours a day.
Yes.
And so they're just so overwhelmed. But then developmentally, their brains aren't done growing. And so there's this piece of that God made them in such a way that they're not adults yet.
Yeah,
And they can't utilize that discernment fully.
Yes.
They may be believers, they may be growing in the faith and dwelt by the Spirit, but developmentally, they don't have the life experience to understand all of those opinions and be able to sift through them with any muscle memory like we would have.
Everything weighs the same weight.
Exactly.
And that is both part of growing up, but the hardest part of growing up.
Yeah.
Coupled with the endless exposure, like that's always the thing that I think so much about. So admittedly, I'm the dad of a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, and like they're walking into life that is never turned off. Like we have not had them have online presence, but that's not far off. And for those that have teenagers that are just always that way, like that, I mean, if it never shuts off, how does it ever wind down? Like, how does the whelm ever not be over?
Yep. And it's hard enough for us as adults, right? Where we can kind of sense in ourselves, I need to put it down or I need to step away because we have self-control and maturity. They don't even have that internal governance.
Yeah, that's right.
Because
that's right.
They're kids.
Yeah.
And so we've got to help them do that. Yeah. And it's a dark world out there. I mean, people are not for their flourishing, so we're even combating that.
And I think we'll talk more about it. You address it in the book, but I wanted to, if you could give us a crash course a little bit, because I think this has become a popular conversation, but what are we getting wrong about emotional health? 'Cause I think that's where we see, we see the storm, we feel the darkness, and so we're wanting to go ahead and diagnose it, but then we often are maybe a little bit too quick to put everything into just 2 or 3 buckets, or we kind of like just group our students into, 'cause that's always my fear is like, I think they're all overwhelmed, but man, that seems like a gross like overestimation. And yet also I know they're going through stuff. So what are we maybe getting wrong mostly about emotional health, or give us some better language to talk to our students?
We don't have like 4 hours, right?
We don't, but we'll recommend resources at the comments below. Yes.
Yeah, no. And that's it's such a needed question, because a handful of things come to mind. One is that our emotional health is not separated out from the rest of our health. God made us holistic beings. And so you mentioned like nobody wants to puberty again. But our bodies change. And hormones change, and
we ain't who we were.
Yes, even like minute to minute. You know, kids bumping into a wall because their legs are growing. You know, and so our emotional health is so tied to our physical health, our spiritual health, our relational health, our mental health, all of those pieces. And yet at the same time, here's number 2, I think we tend to operate in our culture as if our emotions are authoritative and binding.
Yes.
And what I mean by that, I think you get where I'm going here, is that if I feel something, I'm a passive recipient of that feeling. And I have no ability to respond to it, and that's simply not true.
Or to master it.
Correct.
That
correct.
If I feel it, that's the truest thing happening to me.
Yes, it's authoritative. And sometimes we go so far as to say others are bound by my emotions and mine are authoritative. I'm entitled to them responding to my emotions.
Say more about that, because I think you're hitting into the friction of what a lot of us are going through, is like, because we don't want to downplay that what they're feeling is real. As someone that's kind of walking through a year of grief, like I am freshly accustomed to, I don't get to choose when I feel moments of sadness, and yet also I would hope to not be so shaped by them that I would not be able to forge through them.
Yes.
But I'm also 40 and not 14.
Absolutely, and you can distinguish between those. But even in your language, Zach, you're differentiating between that feeling, the kind of experiential piece, and your assessment and response. And that's where I think we mess up with emotional health, is we blend those two and say, because I feel anxious, I am anxious. I'm experiencing an anxious thought or feeling. I can assess it and I can respond to it. And there's a maturity aspect and experience aspect of that. But again, I think when we say, no, I feel anxious, and therefore friend of mine or parent of mine, you have to
acknowledge
you have
my anxiety
and affirm that
Yes.
it's rational and it's
Okay.
valid. Well, it may not be.
Yeah.
And part of growing up
You may
is
just be exhausted and overwhelmed and stressed.
or hungry and need a nap, right? Elijah.
So one of my other favorite professors that shared talks about, she works with her college students that are, freshmen and sophomores in college are also special classes of individuals.
Yes.
Newly found freedom, autonomy. But Dr. Carey often recommends that for most of them, what they need is 8 hours of sleep,
Yes.
Protein, and a shower.
Absolutely.
And that a lot of the
Absolutely.
stress they're feeling is true. They have assignments, they have work, but most undoubtedly there are some other physical things to connect to the health or the a mental check for the restfulness or the screen time that may be feeding how they're feeling.
And screen time is certainly one of them, brain stimulation.
yeah.
But I will tell parents, you don't need a therapist to
Okay.
tell you,
Okay.
have your kids sleep for 8 or 9
Yeah.
hours, get good meals, hydrate, exercise,
Yeah.
care for your body.
Yeah.
Because we all know we don't have our best thoughts and feelings at 3 a.m.
No,
We're tired.
no,
and,
that's
and
right.
We know that.
That's right.
But the 14-year-old who's having these spiral thoughts
Yeah.
can't govern that quite as well as we can. And so we want to help them. We want to help their bodies be healthy. We want to help them make good choices, help them distinguish between a feeling and then what they can do. They have agency over that feeling and response to
good.
it, while not denying that they're actually feeling what they're feeling.
Yeah.
There's a both and there.
I want to talk a little bit because for our youth ministry listeners and friends, like we start to feel, I think, some responsibility for our teenagers. I mean, obviously they're not our kids, but we also care for them deeply.
Yes.
And we want the best for them. And so inside the limited time that we have them, both in the 5 to 6 years or 3 to 4 hours a week, we want the best for them. So what is the difference between helping our students feel better and our students become healthy? Because I think sometimes it feels like we have such little time, we just want to try to fix the moment. This is the crying kid at camp.
Yes.
And I don't want him or her to feel that way too much. I want to patch up.
Sure.
And I see my students that are constantly anxious, and I want them to feel better. But what are some of the work that I can do, even in the limited time that I have them, to help them feel healthy?
Yeah, no, great. I'm going to rattle off a few kind of as they come to
Yeah.
mind. Don't underestimate the value of modeling for them. So parents and adults who you can emotionally regulate, you can model for them and say it out loud as you're doing it. Here's an anxious, a worrying situation. Here's how I'm thinking through it. Here's how I'm responding to it, and here's why.
Yeah.
Be open about the way you're modeling that for those kiddos. So show them something more lovely, if we can say it that way.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we're
yeah.
showing
Something
them
more beautiful,
right.
something more healthy, more flourishing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That they can see, there's a difference between that grown up and me. And that starts a kind of conversation in themselves. Well, how do I do that?
Yeah.
Because that is better. Nobody wants to be anxious all the time. But then I think as we engage with them, there is a sense of acknowledging, hey, let's name what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Where is that coming from? And now let's hold this outside of ourselves. Okay, in this moment, you're having the feeling or you're having the thought that what are you able to do about that?
Okay.
What is within your realm of influence or control? Let's do those things.
Yeah.
So if there's an assignment that's making you anxious, then how do you schedule time to do that assignment? Let's just be really practical about it while not letting that emotion be authoritative and ruling.
To govern more than the reality of the situation.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
okay.
helping them see this is maybe a disproportionate emotion.
Yeah.
Than
what you're
is
feeling,
warranted.
but maybe it's more or less because of.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And so bring some rationale. We all know, and our brains work this way. When we are hyped up on emotion, whether it's sadness, anger, anxiety, fear, the thinking parts of our brain up here shut down.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And we don't think well.
We're just reacting.
We're just reacting.
Yeah.
And so when we can help them just take some deep breaths and calm down and think more logically, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, no, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I don't think this is as big. It just feels big, and that feels overwhelming. You're right, it does feel overwhelming. But we don't have to stay here.
Yeah.
We can name it, we can explore it, we can hold it outside of ourselves and say, okay, Lord, how ought I to respond to this feeling?
That's good.
Because you've given me agency
Yeah.
and responsibility.
Yeah.
And that takes practice.
Yeah.
So not thinking that the 12-year-old's going to have it because you teach that lesson twice.
Yes. It may happen again.
Be a 6-year thing.
But the important part is if we always focus on the fix,
Right.
they won't ever learn the skill. And I think that is something that even in our limited time, and this is part of, I mean, just some of the ways in which you've talked about some simple counseling techniques for folks to understand is that we are practicing skills. Like these are practicing skills, not solving problems.
Right.
Because some of the problems either are going to be too big to solve, or maybe not even what the situation demands.
Right,
So,
right. And we've got to give them opportunities to practice that. So even on the other end of the spectrum, not rushing in to immediately say, no, it's okay, we've got this.
Yeah.
No, these kids, especially teenagers, they're going to launch into the world and it's going to smack them in the face. It doesn't care about how they feel about something, right? So we've got to let them practice.
Okay, so that's one of the questions I want to ask you. We've asked a couple other people. So it's maybe a theological, psychological intersection.
Okay.
What role does suffering play in spiritual maturity? Because this is something that's come up again and again, that if we start acknowledging that we're not just trying to fix or placate, then we are giving room for suffering.
Right.
But we're not just giving room for suffering for no reason.
Right.
Because we actually think that there may be something not tangential but integral to what suffering means for who we're becoming.
Yes.
But give me better language in a way that doesn't sound like it's just heady theology, but it's like live reality.
Yeah. No, and we may kind of circle it before we land.
That's fine. That's okay. Yeah.
I love in the scriptures. It's never if you suffer.
Yeah,
right? It's always when you encounter trials, when you suffer, and it always the scriptures are always pointing towards this greater purpose.
Yeah.
And that purpose is godliness. It uses different words for that, but it's always godliness. And so trying to help them see not that we seek out suffering.
Yeah.
And even I love Mike Imlet, who's a counselor at CCF. He says the alleviation of suffering is a kingdom agenda.
Okay.
It is a good thing to seek to alleviate suffering, but we also see the purpose in it. If we are at the same time sinner, sufferer, and saint in Christ, we leave off a third of that reality if we don't understand the suffering part of it, right? In the Psalms.
Yeah.
You can't read the Psalms without seeing the deep
Some
suffering.
of them were written to address it. That's right. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to hold this tension of saying suffering is a part of our lived experience. It is God-given for very clear purposes.
Yeah.
Book of Job.
Yeah.
At the same time, He's given us grace to try to alleviate suffering as we learn through it. And I think we can hold both of those in tension.
Do you think holding both of those is one of the key signs of maturity?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. And I like the way you say that yes, is recognizing our primary goal, even for counseling, isn't to alleviate a problem.
Anxious no more. Well,
that I think could be a side effect of pursuing the Lord and living His way. He gives it to us for our flourishing. But He may not take that from us. He has allowed us to be, some people are constitutionally different, right? Some people are more of a depressed personality. Some are more anxious personalities. I don't think that's inherently sinful. It can become and be more likely to be sinful. But we're all different. And so how do we steward what God has given us and how He's made us while becoming more like Him at the same time?
Okay.
I think we're still staying philosophical.
We're staying. So let's say it this way. We live in a time, we've addressed that it's overwhelming. We addressed that we're facing suffering. You use some language that I want to come back to about muscle memory or skill refining. So what are some spiritual muscles that we should be training in youth ministry when it comes to living in a world that's distracted, when the algorithm is tempting us to be anxious or to compare? What is some spiritual strength training that we can, what's the resistance and the resilience that we can help a 13 to 17-year-old train in? Right.
Man, the fruit of the Spirit are coming to mind.
And practice these things.
I'm saying this half jokingly. I stopped praying for patience a long time ago. but because the Lord will test you in it when you pray for it. But I really do think patience, in the sense of we live in this instant gratification. It's all about me. I want what I want when I want it, and I can get it in where we live.
You can't. Amazon's about to introduce 2-hour delivery instead of 2-day delivery. It's crazy.
Not out in the country just yet.
Well, not y'all. Maybe not y'all.
But
drones are coming.
Yeah.
That's another kind of fear.
But the sense of which the best things that the Lord brings us, we often have to wait for.
Yeah.
And so helping our teenagers see, they may feel a high level of distress, anxiety, depression, fear, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
But to be patient for the Lord to do that work because it's meaningful.
Yeah.
That process is meaningful. I think is a skill. And then obviously the rest of the fruits of the Spirit. Just asking the Lord to cultivate those in us. But it's interesting. Jeremy Pierre was talking about this at a conference recently. Although the Lord gives us gifts and the fruit of the Spirit, He doesn't just like, bam, you're wise.
Right.
Bam, you're patient.
Yeah.
The Lord cultivates these gifts and these fruits in us over the course of our Christian life. And sometimes we have this wrong theology of saying, well, I'm a Christian now, I should be able to do this. Lived experience obviously tells us otherwise.
That's right.
And so helping our teenagers see there's a lot to be developed, and you and I both know the more we grow, the more we realize we got a lot more growing to do.
Absolutely.
They don't know that.
They don't know that, but they're learning it. And I think maybe even we talked about in other situations, moving youth ministry from the classroom to the laboratory or even the gym of practicing these things. So like, in what ways can I not just proclaim patience, but can we practice patience? Are there fun, creative ways to like delay the gratification of maybe snack time is at the end? Maybe the fun thing comes after the hard thing. Which is small. Like, again, we're living in a 60 to 90 minute programmatic window or over the course of a 12-week summer, but what are some of the ways that we can bake in the things that we want to illustrate and strengthen for them?
That's a great question. This may not be the answer maybe you thought you were going to get, but I'd say give them more responsibility.
Okay.
Have them
feed the chickens.
Ownership. Hey, they can come feed my chickens any day and get
feed
eggs.
the chickens. That's right. That's
happy
right.
to welcome them to the barn.
Yeah.
But give them ownership and responsibility so that if it fails, it fails, and they get to learn in that laboratory. Right. So are there pieces of ministering to the middle schoolers or the younger kids that they can take ownership of, and they've got to actually learn by doing, but see the delayed gratification? Because we know you pour into kids, it's going to be years, decades.
Youth ministry is the practice of patient delay. We talk about it around here that it's a long game and a short season. That we're doing all this 6-year work that we hope pays off in 20.
But it's so meaningful. And we've been in a position, my husband and I served as youth leaders at a church we were at several years ago.
It sounds like when you write in here, it sounds like it. I can tell.
And now this
is not just psychology for teenagers. This is youth leader. Yeah.
We don't have teens yet. So this is not about our kids.
This is real. Yeah.
But to see some of them who are flourishing as young adults. I mean, there are few greater joys that and I'm a professor. I get to see graduation twice a year. There are few greater joys than seeing young people that the Lord is doing work in their life. Y'all know this. Right? And to see them grow and flourish and to feel like a proud parent. And just praise the Lord for His gifts of grace in them. And to get the privilege to be a piece of that. I look back on my own experience with my own youth minister. Her name was Emily. So pivotal in my life. And I think, man, what a gift she was to me in that season. And I bet you she never thought of it that way. She
probably saw it as a series of weeks that Kristin was in the ministry.
Oh, bless her. But she was so meaningful in my life. Even in that season, be careful how I say this, but in a very different way than my parents. Right, my parents are very meaningful, but just loving me and supporting me and showing me what a godly woman looks like.
That's awesome.
And spurring me on towards education. And so you all, youth ministers, have a pivotal job to play in this season where teenagers often don't want to hear what their parents have to say. But you can say it in a way that's the exact same as mom and dad, and they will listen to you as a mentor.
That's right.
Take advantage of it.
That was kind of my last question for you is not all of us have the background or the education or training, but so many of us are working with teenagers that are overwhelmed. And you do the back half of the book is like reading through a case study of students throughout the years that were facing various issues at heightened levels. But for those of us that are not certified counselors, for those of us that have not even had counseling training outside of maybe a course or two, what would you give as an encouragement? Like what would be some words of wisdom or encouragement of, like, even if you are not CPE, like what can we do? What can we do?
No, don't underestimate the value of presence and listening and understanding and encouragement. That's 80% of what counseling is. It's just being present, right? We look at the book of Job and we're like, Job, your friends were great until they opened their mouths.
They would just kept sitting.
You know? But that week where they came and they saw him and they grieved with him and they bore his burdens. Right? That's so meaningful. And you can do that. You can be present. I hope that a book like Counseling Teens gives you words and a framework, if nothing else, to say, this is something I can do versus I need to connect them with another member of the care team. And I say it that way intentionally. Because some pastors or ministry leaders will hand people off to a counselor, and we were made for community, right? And so you can be the spiritual shepherd and leader that is working with a counselor, a nutritionist, or a psychologist, or a psychiatrist. Be part of that team. Love them well, see them well, be present with them. You will accomplish more in that than you think. And the Lord has placed you in that position and ordained it on purpose. Don't neglect it. Don't push it off and thinking you're not qualified. He made you there. He put you there.
It's so good.
Use it.
It's so good. Well, Kristin, thank you so much. The book is Counseling Teens. Dr. Kellen, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, it was a joy.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll see you back next week.